This is your city. This is your city wants to know. We want to know the background, the heartbeat of what makes up our beautiful cities. We dig into the backstories, from the struggles to the successes of our local entrepreneurs, small business owners, artists, not-for-profit organizations, and the many, many people who make up the intricate tapestry of our communities. Real people, real stories, by you and for you. But wait, that's not it. I love giving my opinion. Just ask anyone who knows me. We can't get enough of the honest, gritty feedback of places that we spend our hard-earned money. I'll give you the good, the bad, and the ugly of the places I eat, sleep, and visit. Disclaimer, my opinion only. All right, so come on, let's get to it. Hello, everyone, and thank you once again for tuning in to This Is Your City. As always, I'm Kimberly Wardell, your host, and we have a very important message tonight. It's the end of October. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, rightfully so. Across Canada, 1 out of 8 women still receive this diagnosis of a lifetime. We've all been impacted somehow, one way or the other, whether it be a coworker, a friend, a loved one, or perhaps even yourself. Cancer. Cancer, the dreaded C. The Canadian Cancer Society says that about 27,400 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer. That represents about 25% of all new cases for women in 2020. An average of 75 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer every single day. Every day in this country, 75 women will get that call. The majority of women faced with this diagnosis are confronted with this crucial decision, whether to get or not get a lumpectomy, which is the surgery that removes the cancer from the breast or abnormal tissues, whether to get a mastectomy or a double mastectomy, which is the removal of both breasts. My guest tonight has not only had to face that decision once, but she got that life-altering decision twice. I can't imagine the emotional trauma that that would cause. She is brave beyond comprehension. Tonight, my guest is not only an amazing human being, but I have been blessed to call her my friend. And humbly, not just a friend, but one of my closest friends. And I am not going to get emotional during this interview. I'm going to try my best. But 2-time breast cancer survivoress, Toni Estabrooks. Hello, my dear friend, Toni. How are you?
Hello, Kim. I'm good. How are you doing?
Excellent. I'm so happy that you're decided to do this and join me and join our listeners tonight.
I'm so happy that you asked. Thank you.
Well, you did say, Toni, that it was okay that I asked you any question in regards to your diagnosis, in regards to your treatment, your recovery, and anything in between. And I am so grateful that this is a very intimate, personal story, and that you are allowing listeners into it. It's beyond words. So thank you. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to ask a few questions, and feel free to answer them however you feel, however you choose. All right.
Thank you.
So let's go back, Toni, to nearly 6 years now, 2014. We're going to go there, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You were living life, doing your everyday thing, working, a mom, a wife. And then you get some news. Can you take us back to that time? Why
I can't.
The doctors?
So this all started a little bit before 2014. I have, what a lot of women have, are considered dense breasts. I had a little bit of a scare in that I thought I felt a lump. And that was probably about 10 years before 2014 happened. So they had periodically been doing mammograms, but I had been doing self-check. So I get a letter from the government. When you turn 50, you're very, very lucky that you're invited to go get a mammogram, and every woman should take advantage of that. And decided that I would book the appointment. Very blessed that I did. And unfortunately, they found a mass. So there's a bit of a difference between a mass and a lump. Now, I told you that I had dense breasts, so there were little lumps here and there that I would feel, but my doctor would reassure me it was nothing. With a mass, you don't feel it. So the mammogram picked up the mass. And at that point, I was shaken to my core. I went home and sat my husband and my daughter down and said, they have found something. At that point, we weren't sure what it was that they had found, but they were saying, yes, it's cancer. So in Hamilton, we are very, very fortunate that we have an amazing cancer network. We have a lot of help. We have the best medical. I was very lucky that my family doctor sent me to one of the top surgeons in Hamilton. We did a biopsy and confirmed that, yes, it was cancer. So home I go to confirm to my daughter and my husband that, yes, this is cancer, and we need to decide what to do. And I say we because when you get cancer, it takes a village to help you. It's not just you, and you can't do this alone. You need to reach out. You need to speak to your sisters, your cousins, your friends, your husband, whoever is there for you. This is not something that you should suffer with, and it's not something that you have to suffer with. So we decided, instead of having my breast removed because they found the mass, and when you say the word mass, it sounds huge, but it really wasn't. It was only about 2 centimeters. Sounds a lot, but it really isn't in the whole grand scheme of everything that's in there for you. Right. And so they did a biopsy, and it turned out yes. So we decided that I would do a lumpectomy. Being that I was only 50 at the time, I was still quite vain about having my breasts. I was still out in the working field, doing everything in public. And to me, it was important still to maintain my image. So I had the lumpectomy, and it came back. Obviously, it was cancer. They got everything, what they call the margins. So when they're taking it out, they'll take a little bit of an extra. And they got the margins, and everything seemed fine. They told me that because my breasts were dense, because they found this mass, my chance of having cancer in the future was very slim. I had maybe less than a 5% chance.
Wow. Did that give you hope at that moment? Were you like, oh, okay? Or, because I know you and I know your attitude and your positivity. So were you like, okay, it's only 5%. We're good. We're just going to do the lumpectomy and we'll be done with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I really was let's do the lumpectomy. I'm going to be good. I'm going to be healthy. I can be there for my husband, for my daughter. I can be there for my friends. I can do my volunteer work. I can work. I can do everything. And it would only set me back, 6 weeks of not really being able to kind of lift or do anything like that. It really didn't mean I couldn't drive. So I could still do everything. So
was it that quick with you saying, okay, what do we do? Like you went, you had your examination, they said it's this, you went home. Was it that quick within that short amount of time?
It was 90 days to the day. So I was diagnosed in August and I had my surgery in October of 2014. Wow. Yeah. And it's day surgery. So you're in and out of the hospital, same day. You just go home and recover. Basically, they bandage you up. They put a few stitches and they bandage you up and you carry on.
Was there chemotherapy? Was there radiation, or just the surgery to remove, like the lumpectomy?
Just the surgery in 2014.
Okay. And that's around the time after your surgery, you started, you became like healthier. You were out walking your dog, you were doing normal things. That's about the time you and I met.
Yes.
Just around that time. So
yeah.
You just kind of went through that scary, horrible moment. So when I met you, oh my gosh, like anybody who knows you, the positivity that emanates out of you, it's just, we can get talked about that later, but it was like a no big deal thing. I'm not saying it wasn't a big deal, but you kind of walked through life like it was no big deal. Was that because you had to be strong for your daughter, you had to be strong for your husband, or mentally, were you just, I've done this, it's good? Or were you still going through some fear after those 90 days?
My actual fear was at the very beginning. Again, as I said, we are very fortunate here in Hamilton and actually in Canada, in Ontario. We are very fortunate to have amazing healthcare at the speed that they had done everything. So I knew that I was well looked after. The other thing was that the Lord above gave me the ability to have this mass found quickly, removed, and I was still healthy enough to enjoy life, to enjoy my family.
Well, you were enjoying your family. And if that weren't enough, not too long later, you get more devastating news. Your husband got sick. Tell us about that.
Well, actually, just before that, so this happened the cancer happened in October. In February, my brother had a ruptured aorta and passed away. So again, it was a trying time. It was almost like, is this a test? And I got through it. Then comes November. My husband comes home on a Friday night from work and we have chairs that were beside each other sitting in the living room. And I was leaning over to him and kind of bothering him, bugging him, reading the newspaper with him, just like couples do. We've been together for 25 years. So, it was that natural, let's bug each other kind of thing on a Friday night. He gets up Saturday morning and says, you clean the house, clean up, get ready, I'll go shopping. So off he went shopping, came back from shopping and brought the groceries in and came and sat in the living room and said, I don't feel so good. I'm having a hard time breathing. So I have a health and safety background and was a soccer coach. So I'm very versed in these sort of things and said to him, lift your arms up because that will open up your airway. And he lifted his arms up and immediately pulled them down and put them on his chest. In that moment, I instinctively knew that he was having a heart attack. So I got up, grabbed the phone, and dialed 911. um, where we were living at the time, I was very fortunate that the fire hall was just about 3-4 minutes down the road. So what felt like an eternity, it just feels like time stops. You're so, you're not strong, you're not helpful in that time. And during that time, he actually did have a heart attack where his heart had stopped. The fire department came in, the ambulance came in, the advanced paramedics came in. I later found out that he coded, or they had to put the defibrillator on him 4 times at home. So we rush off to the hospital, and in my mind, again, as you alluded to, I'm a very positive person. I don't like to look at the negative in things. I don't think that's healthy for you. So in my mind, in the ambulance, I'm still thinking, oh, everything's going to be all fine. I had an appointment to change my tires to my winter tires and thought, I'll just phone them and let them know I'm going to be a little bit late. So we got to the hospital, and when it finally started to hit me was when the ambulance went in the ambulance bay doors. They took me in through the ambulance bay doors. They had a social worker and a police officer waiting for me. And the police officer looked at me and said, you know, this is going to be grim. And I think that's when it really hit me that for the first time, this could be a lot worse than I thought. You know, I still had a lot of faith that, you know, he's going to pull through. Again, we have the best care. We were at one of the best cardiac hospitals. Fortunately for me at that time, the head of the cardiac department happened to be down in the emergency department doing some training. Unfortunately, they worked on him for close to 2 hours, and they just could not bring him back. His heart was so bad that the only way that I would have gotten him back is if they could have given him a brand new heart.
Right.
So the hardest part of all of that, because I was in such shock, was having to let my daughter know. My 21-year-old daughter is at school in Toronto at university to become a nurse, and phoning her and saying, you know, your dad is going to the hospital, hearing me in the ambulance talking to her, and then getting to the hospital when he passed. And having to phone her was probably the worst phone call that I've ever had to make in my life. I've experienced death before that, you know, losing my dad, losing my brother, but this is a loss like no other. So I didn't allow my daughter to come to the hospital. I didn't want her to see her dad that way. As the week progressed and we made arrangements, I made a special arrangement to so she could have a viewing with her dad. So it was just her dad. I was in the room, but she was able to see him, touch him. He was cleaned up. So he looked like dad, just sleeping. She was able to write him a letter. To this day, I don't know what the contents of the letter are. That was not for me to know. That was between her, the Lord, and her dad. So we got through that, and with the help of both yourself and your daughter, your husband, a lot of amazing friends and family, things looked like they were on the upswing. Life was going good.
Well, for a bit there, you know, it takes a while, and you walked for a long while through all of that emotionally, understandably, and your daughter, and your main focus was on your daughter. I mean, any parent will understand that. your main focus was on your daughter. So you kind of put your own self on hold, but you had just gone through cancer treatment, like a month, I think, prior. Did that, you started walking through normal, if I can call it normal, Toni, you started to get a new routine and life goes on. I mean, that sounds kind of cruel, but it is just what it is. Life goes on sometimes. Your daughter and you started giving yourselves permission to go on.
You have to. You just have to. It's sad and it's hard, but you have to think, you look at the sky, you look at the trees, you look at everything, and it shows you that, there is a circle of life that, some good will come from things that are wilted. And that's how you feel. It's like a fog, like your heart is wilted. It is, as I said, just a crushing pain, but you know that there is going to be another day, a bright day.
Then you get more devastating news. Cancer. Again. Were you like, hey God, like my brother, me, my husband, me, like, I can't even imagine. I don't think any of us, even if we have loved ones who've gone through it, if you haven't gone through it yourself, there is no way we can understand that. When you got that second diagnosis, when you got that news, what happened to you? Like, where did your mind go? How did you feel? I know that's a silly kind of question, but there's people out there who are going through what you've gone through and will understand.
No, you know what? It's not a silly question. It is very real. The first indication that there was something wrong was there was a lump under my arm. I thought because women shave their arms, maybe it was an ingrown hair. I didn't think twice. Again, you have to remember that this is 4 years on, sorry. And they've told me that I only have a 5% chance that there's cancer. So the lump got a little bit bigger and red and sore. My daughter being a nurse, I said to her, this is uncomfortable. And she said, well, let's go get you checked. At the time it was Christmas. So my doctor was on vacation. She said, listen, I've got a friend who's working in the ER right now. We'll go down, we'll get you checked. This was Christmas Eve. And I said, I don't want to because I want to go and have Christmas dinner. I was very determined to have Christmas dinner. She said, well, make sure you get Christmas dinner. So off to the ER I went. Again, just thinking it's an ingrown hair, didn't think anything of it. Get in to see the doctor, and I could tell that they were thinking there was more than just an ingrown hair. Cancer didn't come to mind at the time. So it didn't come to my mind. I don't think it came to theirs. So there had been a resident first, and she brought the doctor in. Again, this is very normal now. And at a lot of hospitals, you will see a resident who is working under a doctor. These residents can be first year to fourth year. They are going to be a doctor. The hospital would not unleash you onto somebody or unleash them, onto somebody. They're very qualified.
Right.
So she said, can we bring the doctor in? And I'm like, sure. So she brought the doctor in, and he kind of felt around, and he said, I want to do an ultrasound. And at that point, I started to think, okay, maybe this is a little bit more than just an ingrown hair. Again, I didn't think cancer. So he did the ultrasound, and he said, I'd like to send you to the breast clinic to have a mammogram and an ultrasound. So, I'm sorry, Yes, a mammogram and an ultrasound. So I said, okay. Now my daughter's with me at this time. This is pre-COVID, so she could be with me. So we kind of looked at each other thinking, he's thinking that there's something else here. They sent me home with antibiotics, and I did get my Christmas dinner, and it was really good. So come January, this happened in December 24th, as I said. So January the 9th, I went to the breast clinic at the Juravinsky. They did the ultrasound. Now, I don't want to sound like I'm whining, and I don't want anybody to pity me, because we are given what we're given. And I am so thankful that I have the blessed life that I have, the amazing friends, the beautiful house, the car, the amazing daughter. I couldn't ask for anything more. In that moment, when she said to me, I have had back problems, so I've had plenty of procedures. And when she said to me, can we bring in the doctor to look at this ultrasound? I instinctively knew there was more there than just a small infection. Somehow in the back of my mind, I suspected cancer. So they do the ultrasound, they do the mammogram. The mammogram, again, was an indicator that they were seeing something that they weren't liking. Most mammograms, when you have them, we all know it's the worst thing ever, but they do about 10 slides, sometimes 12. This time she did between 4 and 6 slides. So I instinctively knew that there was something that they're specifically looking for. She then asked me if they could do a biopsy right there.
Right.
Please don't leave the hospital. We want to do a biopsy right away.
And was your daughter with you at this time?
Well, she was with me at the hospital, but not in the room, because they wouldn't allow her, even though she is a nurse and even though she does work for the hospital under that umbrella.
Yeah.
Not that specific hospital, but under that umbrella, she was still not allowed in the room. They don't allow anybody in the room but the patient when they're doing things like ultrasounds and x-rays
Right.
and stuff like that. So when they said they wanted to do the biopsy, I knew it was going to be a few minutes. They said, we're going to need you to hang out for about 20 minutes and we'll get you. And I said, okay. So I went out to see her, and I looked at her and said, they only did slides. They did the ultrasound, but really sort of focused on one area. They brought the doctor in, and now they want to do a biopsy. And in that moment, she looked up from her phone and said to me, it's cancer. I think we both knew at that time. So I sat in the chair and I started to cry, but not tears of pity, tears of anger. I was very angry. Why? Why was this happening to me again? I wasn't a horrible person. At least I didn't think I was. So what did I do to deserve this? So I pulled myself together. They do the biopsy. And again, because I have had other health problems, I can tell that they're seeing something. Anybody who's had a biopsy, a ultrasound, knows that the technicians will not say anything to you. I could tell there was just something different about the way that they were doing things. So I had to wait for the results to go to my family doctor. The results only took 4 days, but those 4 days were 4 really long days. A lot of discussions with my daughter. If this is cancer, what's going to happen? Making sure that she understood that there were people around her that could support her. making sure, and again, she's a nurse, so she knows a lot of medical stuff, making sure that she had people at work that could support her, making sure that if this was a lot worse than it, worst case scenario that it could possibly be, that there was going to be a support system for her. Again, you try, because you should always put your children before you, you try to make sure that she's okay. So again, I had that moment of anger and that moment of why me, but I immediately snapped to why her. She has, mom go through cancer, but mom's okay. She's now lost her only uncle. She's now lost her dad. And now her mom has just been diagnosed with cancer. It was a really hard moment. It was a really hard moment.
I remember you calling me and telling me what was going on. And I just kept thinking about your daughter. I just kept thinking about your fear about leaving your daughter behind. And you were so together. You choked up a few times, but I remember crying so many times that night and the nights preceding, and my husband, saying, just call her. And I'm thinking, I felt so ashamed that I was crying and you were being so brave and you were so positive. But I think you kind of had to be, because all you were doing was thinking about your daughter. Why her? Now, do you think in that positivity, that's what helped keep you stronger? Was being so positive?
It really is. I think it is what helps keep you stronger. Through this whole journey, through the diagnosis, through the surgery and treatment, we can get into that a little bit, but through all of that, I really found if I had a down day, everybody around me was down, and it didn't feel like everything was okay. When you try to stay positive, and it is the hardest thing to stay positive some days, and staying positive doesn't mean that you don't cry. You do cry, but you just pick yourself up and think, okay, again, I have the best care. I was given this for a purpose. What was my purpose? I have found out what my purpose was in having this cancer. But in that moment, you just have to think the positive. You have to stay positive. And again, it helps keep everybody that is your support system around you. It keeps them positive. Really, through all of this, I know people have lost friends and they do lose friends. I did have a couple of friends who didn't speak to me. They were just concerned. They didn't know what to say. They were scared.
Well, at that point in time, people around you sometimes, because they don't want to be sad and sullen in front of you because you're being so positive. Were there words, were there people, were there times that you didn't want people to say certain things to you? Like, was there like a no-go, like, stop it, let's not, like, what did you not want friends or family to say to you?
I think at one point through all of it, was that, oh, it's all going to be okay, that this is no big deal. You've done this before. That kind of, once or twice when it was said, it might have just been because it was a bad day, but it just got me the wrong way. Right. And really upset me because, not every day really is a good day, but not every day is a bad day. So you got to try to balance that out. And, when you hear somebody say, oh, it's not a big deal, or it's going to be okay, when you're having a bit of a rough moment, that's not what you want to hear. But you can't let that get to you, because that's somebody else reaching out, not understanding, wanting to understand. So you just kind of have to take it and let it roll.
There's you being strong for everybody else again. Trying to understand everybody else while you're going through all of this. Wow, Toni. This is what you do.
It got a little bit tougher as things went on. So I decided that I was going to go with this. I was going to have surgery. I was going to do medication. I was going to do what I was going to do. Something very key through all of this and before my surgery was the fact that the mammogram did not pick up the lump. It didn't pick up anything in my breast. It did pick up something in my arm. And what they were picking up in my arm was my lymph nodes. But if it's in your lymph nodes, they know it's traveled. So they knew it had to be in my breast, but they weren't picking it up.
Right.
The problem was, even though I was going for the mammograms and even though I was self-checking, these were tiny little pieces that were, again, in my dense breast, behind that scar tissue. So when my doctor sent me to the surgeon ordered a CAT scan, a bone scan, and an MRI. If you've ever been to an MRI, you know you lay there real still and the machine, they put you in the machine and it goes around you and it's crazy clicking. Well, when you have an MRI on your breast, they have like these little cups that you put your breasts in. And it was kind of a giggly moment. It was very, wow, this is funny. But fortunately for me, the MRI did pick up all those little pieces. There was probably about 20 little pieces ranging in size from, like 0.1 centimeter to 0.2 to 0.3, but they said there was about 20 little pieces that they found. Again, none of it picked up in that mammogram. So my message in that is, if you really think that there's something, get it checked.
Yeah.
Go back to your doctor. Make sure that you ask. Make sure 100% that you ask. So we do all the tests and the doctor comes back and says, we think we see something on your spleen, on your liver, and in your shoulder. We're not seeing, you remember I spoke about those margins. We're not seeing those margins. So we just think that maybe they're lumps of fatty tissue. Women, after we turn about 45, start to get little lumps here and there. And it's just life. It's just what happens to our bodies. So he said to me, however, we are seeing a lump that I'm scared, or that he didn't use the word scared. He said that I'm concerned with. And I looked at him and said, should I be scared? And he said, no, but we're going to be concerned. I said, okay. Yeah. So he said, I'm going to have you go to a urologist, but I'm not sending you to just any urologist. You're going to go to the head of urology, who is also a professor at McMaster. So he is one of the very top urologists in all of the region. I said, okay. So I went to him and did find out that, yes, in fact, what was in my bladder was also cancer. My daughter happened to be with me again at that appointment. She was so broken, but tried to stay so strong for me. I'm trying to stay strong for her, knowing that this is stressing her out. How am I going to walk out of this room and tell her that, yes, they have found cancer in my bladder as well? So I thought, I just got to buck up and say it. I had to let her know I was going to be okay. I knew that I was in really good hands. I had the best doctors. Again, we have the Juravinsky, which is one of the best cancer centers. And I just spurted out to her. It's in my bladder. So fortunately, with her medical background, I was able to allow her to phone the doctors so she could have conversations with them on a level that, you know, a non-medical person wouldn't understand. And I think that was one of the best things that I was able to do, was give her the ability to talk to those doctors.
Yes.
And, you know, to have them help her understand that, you know, it's going to be okay. We're going to get this. You know, the recovery rate for bladder cancer is 97%. So I decided with the main surgeon that, you know what, all this stuff has to come out. I want you to, we're not doing a lumpectomy this time. He, you know, gave me my options, and I said, no, I can't do this again. I cannot have another diagnosis. So I would like my breast removed. So we talked about having, this was everything was happening on my left side. So we talked about my right side, and he was very adamant that no, we're going to leave the other side because there's only a 10 to 15% chance that cancer can happen on that side. Everything seems to be on this side. It's, you know, so I kind of talked me into keeping my right breast.
And I know you didn't want to, because we talked about that.
No.
You did not want to. You just wanted to get them both and just to be done with it. You only had a 5% chance before, and then it came back.
Yes.
So they're saying you only have, it's only a 15%. That didn't ring any bell. That didn't matter to you. But they convinced you to only remove the one.
So the doctor convinces me, yeah, you know what, down the road, we can rebuild your breast. And I was very adamant that I did not want breast implants.
Yeah.
I'm still to this day adamant I don't want breast implants. Again, it's a surgery that they do. There's many steps to it when they're doing reconstruction. And most breast implant manufacturers give the life of a breast implant 10 years.
Yeah.
A lot of doctors will give them 15 to 20. So I'm thinking at that time, I'm 55. Let's do 10 years. That gives me 65. Okay, let's forget about the 10 years. Let's do what the surgeon says. We'll go 15 or 20. That makes me 70 or 75, having to have unnecessary surgery.
To get them removed.
To have it removed. Yeah. So I was, even though he had talked me into it, I was really devastated after my surgery. So
I'm going to just interrupt you for 1 second, because I want listeners to understand how you think, and it's so amazing, and it teaches me so much, and it can teach others so much. You had such a long range vision. Most of us, and I can only say me at this moment because I haven't gone through it, but I would be thinking too, yeah, just put in a breast, because we're women, right? And we are taught throughout the ages that that's what makes us a woman, right? So you're thinking beyond your vanity. You're thinking, okay, let's just go these years. Now I'm going to be 75, the danger of going under and getting another, like you're thinking like so far beyond what most of us would think. It was so impressive to me when you were discussing all of this stuff. And I'm still blown away hearing it again. But that's what you need. You need to be not just in the moment, because that's where the depression and everything will come in. You've got to think beyond. Sorry to interrupt you with that, but
that's perfectly, that is perfectly what it is. And it's very hard. It's very hard to think beyond that moment. But I also had to reflect back as well, because, you know, this was my daughter who went through cancer once with me, lost her dad. Now she's going through cancer again. Is she going to be okay in 10, 15, 20 years to go through, you know, this whole procedure? Because every time you do an operation, there is a chance that things can go wrong. There just inherently is a chance.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to have to put her through that again. I didn't want to put me through it, but I didn't want to put her through it. Again, being a parent, you think about everybody other than yourself. And again, a lot of people said to me, you got to think about yourself. You've got to think about yourself. I was thinking about myself, but I was also thinking about the person who loves me the most, cares for me, wanted me around.
Right.
So there was a me in there. It just manifested its way to, me wanting what was best for my daughter as well.
Yeah. Then you had your breasts removed. You go in.
So I had my breast removed in April. I then 6 weeks later had my bladder surgery. It's kind of gross, so trigger warning. They scrape your bladder. So they just go in, they don't have to open you up. There's no cutting involved. They go in through your urethra and go in and they scrape. And so they come back and they said to Nicole, we got everything. It was a little bit bigger than what we expected, but everything else looks really good. So we had a bit of a hiccup after surgery. And that, again, we talked about the residents. Well, the resident actually helped. And the doctor had scraped the side of my bladder just to ensure that nothing else could grow back. And then they put a stent in just to kind of help make sure that nothing, just to help that nothing closed up or moved or went when it shouldn't. And so I was taking a shower. I have 2 dogs, and my dog excitedly came in as I was drying myself off and stepped on the towel. The towel pulled the stent out. Unfortunately, the resident had put it just a little bit high and it nicked my kidney.
Oh my gosh.
It was a pain like no other pain. Now, I had had my breast removed. I had, the lumpectomy before. I've had 4 back surgeries. I had my daughter breech and the epidural wore off. And this was a pain like I've never had before.
Wow.
I actually ended up down in the emergency room at St. Joseph's, I don't mind mentioning. And bless your soul, you were down there to help me. I get to the hospital and they jack me up on painkillers. So I had no clue. Everything was great. Didn't really care. Fortunately, there was no permanent damage. It was just a nick. And, with the medication and rest, I was able to recover and, carried on. Carried on meaning now I'm going to go through chemotherapy and radiation. For some people, they decide not to do it. This was a personal choice for me. Again, thinking, I just don't want to do this. I don't want to have cancer come back. I'm just not, I don't know if I could be strong enough. How strong could I be if it came back? So I decided that, yes, I would do radiation. I had 8 rounds of radiation. So I had it every 2 weeks. And there was one type for 4 weeks for 4 of the treatments. And then there was another type for the other 4. The first 4 made me extremely tired. So all I really just wanted to do was lay on the couch and snug with my dogs. And at that time, I was fortunate to have the ability to have somebody come and walk the dogs for me and do that sort of stuff. So I was able to recover. Yeah. A little bit of a funny story, very quick story, is we have a Furbo. Furbo is a dog treat thrower, but it has a camera on it. So we hooked Furbo up in the kitchen so that my daughter could watch me while she was at work. so
it's a great idea.
I did my first 4 rounds. And in those first 4 rounds, I lost my hair. I've always had short hair. So to me, it's hair, it'll grow back. What really got me was I lost my eyebrows and my eyelashes. Nobody tells you that you're going to lose your eyelashes? They're super important for keeping things out of your eyes. So I would walk to appointments, or I would, muster up all my energy to go and just pick up, milk at the store. But I would walk around like I was crying. So to me, I always thought I look so pathetic. I just want my eyelashes back. I didn't really, I did want hair eventually, but I was pretty adamant, no wig. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Right? I have nothing to hide. I have nothing to be ashamed of.
When I saw you without your hair, because you were going through some treatments and stuff, so I wasn't able to be physically with you, and you were so tired, and we talked on the phone, but I couldn't see you. We didn't do anything then. I remember when I first saw you with no hair, I cried, but I wasn't crying because, I don't know if you remember that. I didn't cry because, oh my gosh, Toni, you have no hair. You were so incredibly beautiful. You had like this perfect head. And I remember saying that to you, and you have such a sense of humor. You can't help but laugh. You feel guilty laughing because of the situation, but you're just so funny. And we crying because you stunned me. That's why I was crying. You stunned me with your beauty.
Thank you so much.
Oh. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I have a little bit of a funny story too about not having hair, eyebrows, and eyelashes. So I finished my 4 rounds of cancer that make me tired. Then I had 4 rounds of cancer, of chemo, that made me excruciatingly sore. Now, for women, this is known. So when you do decide to have your treatments, just for everybody out there, make sure you ask, what are the side effects? And make sure, am I going to lose my hair? Is it going to be painful? Go online, ask other people. It's never, ever wrong to ask another cancer patient. It's never wrong to ask any of those questions. The Cancer Society is there. Here in Hamilton, we have several cancer support agencies. So I got through that. And then I had 25 radiation. So with the radiation, it does make you tired, but it's a different type of tired. With the chemo, it was like I could walk up 6 steps and it felt like I had just done a 10K. With the radiation, it was more tired, like you just worked a hard day. So I was able to now with the radiation drive. And the one day I was driving to my appointment myself, and it was a beautiful day. So I had, I, again, try to stay as positive as I could. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to roll down the window. I'm just going to enjoy, let whatever hair is starting to grow back, let the wind blow it back. And I thought, I'm going to put on some lip gloss, some lipstick. So I'm putting on my lipstick. I'm sitting at a red light and there's a car beside me. And I kind of look over and there's a guy sitting there and his wife looks over, she leans over and she told me that I looked really pretty. It just made my day. I've been having a rough day and, going out in the beautiful, I was like, I'm going to make the best of this day. And kind of that helps. But when she told me that, it was so touching. This is a stranger. And it just made me cry, but it was happy tears. Then her husband told me I looked really pretty as well. It was just beautiful. These are, 2 strangers that, made somebody's day. So even, as I'm saying, you can be stuck for words because, there's cancer, because there is any other illness, but something as kind as saying, you look pretty, how was your day? Are you okay? Can go such a long way. And that day it really did.
It's funny you mentioned that story. After we go through a bit of this interview, I was going to ask you to talk about that story. And because it was such a moment. I remember you told me that story, and you were having a tough day. You're talking to the Lord in the car, and you're just like, I'm just so discouraged. And then this happens, and it's so easy for us to do an act of kindness that doesn't really take a lot of planning or effort. It's two total strangers looked over and saw a beautiful woman and let you know. Obviously, I mean, you know, you had no hair. It was an obvious thing that you were a woman going through something. But you were stunningly beautiful, and they let you be aware of that. And I was going to ask you to mention this story. So thank you for bringing that up.
You're very welcome. Like I said, it really did help just turn my whole day around and brighten my whole day. I smiled for the rest of the day and felt great. So yeah, radiation was not so tough, as I said. It made me tired. And one of the things I found was listen to the doctors, read all the information they give you, ask the questions, but listen to what they say. And I really did listen to what they told me to do. So when I finished radiation, I had follow-up appointments and had decided at that point, you know what? I'm uncomfortable. I'm getting a sore neck. I'm getting a sore arm. I'm getting a sore back because I was rather large chested and to have all the weight of one breast. So I went back to my surgeon and said, I had previously said to him, as I said to you, I felt immediately after surgery. So in those follow-up appointments, I had mentioned to him that I wasn't happy, that I wanted this gone. Again, he reassured me we can do this reconstruction. So I went back to him, and this time I was going to be adamant. I'm going to have this breast removed. He decided that he was going to give me brochures. And a lot of doctors nowadays are very minimal. They want to do the least amount of damage to your body. But I just was not having it this time. So he said, okay, I'm going to send you to a reconstructive surgeon. So I thought, finally, I'm going to be able to get somewhere. So I get a phone call from the doctor's office that says, this is the reconstructive surgeon, and this is when your appointment will be. So a couple of days before my appointment, I get a phone call from the reconstructive surgeon's office saying, we have a clinic and we want you to go to it. It's called a bra clinic. And I kind of giggled because that's the child in me. But it's a breast awareness clinic. And so I thought, who's my best support to come with me? Kim, I called you up and said, we're going to go learn about boobs. And I giggled because I, again, thought that was so funny. But we went down and saw all kinds of things, heard all kinds of information, took some notes. Together, we went back in, coming back home, we went in your vehicle and we talked it all out. And there were things that I had already said to you, but there were things that you had heard. So it was really a good discussion. It was what I needed to reinforce that, yes, I was making a right decision and that my decision wasn't wrong. It wasn't wrong for me. It wasn't wrong for other people. It just was my decision and it was the right decision. So I hadn't heard anything. I think we went in September or October to the bra clinic. And then in November, I had a follow-up with the surgeon. I hadn't heard anything. So this was the end of November. And so I phoned them and I said, I haven't heard anything. What's going on? This reconstructive surgeon had said that, yes, it would be a good idea to remove my right breast and they would start from a clean slate. So, and I was very adamant, again, no implants. And he said, no, We can use all your extra in your stomach and make breasts. And we had an amazing conversation. There was no unrealistic expectations. So I went back to the surgeon because I hadn't heard anything. And again, you know, as I said, being minimalist, and had my appointment. And he said, "Oh, I didn't hear anything." And I said, "Well, my GP has heard, so you had to have the notes."
Right.
And so he said, "Okay, we'll come in and, you know, we'll talk." So I went in and he finally agreed that he would remove my right breast. So we planned the surgery. And again, now this is not as fast as everything else happened, and it's not as fast as everything moved, because they really believed that there was nothing there. They removed my breast. They removed 4 of my lymph nodes on my right side and sent it to pathology for it to come back and them tell me that there was precancer. That made me the angriest that I had been through all of it. Through 2014, losing my brother, losing my husband, cancer in my breast, in my bladder, treatments, everything. I was just livid. I'd never been that angry. Though in that moment, I was also so grateful that something in me kept pushing me to get this done, to get this looked at. You know, the uncomfortableness was part of it, but it was just something in me. So fortunately, I did have that surgery, and because it was precancer, did not need to have any more chemo or any more radiation. I am on a cancer top-up maintenance medication. It should have been 2 years, but because they did find the precancer on the right side, it will be for 5 years. But it's not so bad, because just at 1 pill in the morning, it doesn't make me sore. It doesn't make me tired. It makes me a little bloated, but I've decided I'm not fat, I'm not chubby, I'm just rolly, and I'm going to roll with it.
Oh, you're funny.
So I am very blessed to say that as of today, as we're talking, I have no cancer in my body.
No.
I am not in remission, but I am considered cancer-free right now. They still do a lot of appointments and a lot of checking. And again, you know, the hospitals that we have are so close by that it's an hour when it happens. And to me, it's nothing. It's just an hour to make sure that I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be here for grandbabies. I'm, you know, going to be here when I'm ready to have my reconstruction.
Yes.
It's all going to be good.
Yes. When you finish your medication, would that be considered remission? Is that when they decide it's remission?
Yes. So what they'll do is through all of this, because of the medications, they will still do bone scans. They'll do bone density. They will do MRIs. They will do ultrasounds. They'll still do all of that kind of stuff. But they will do a final complete scan to make sure that they're not seeing anything. They'll do blood tests, everything that they need to do. They will do to ensure that they can say in 5 years that I will be in remission.
Right.
I also had genetic testing done because I wanted to make sure that if the genes were there, that my daughter started to have testing done early enough. Again, remember, these masses I couldn't feel. So even doing self-exams, that didn't help me, you know, and thinking that, you know, for her is, you know, this going to be the same? Is she going to have something like that and not know? Does it run in the family? So the genetic testing came back that no, this just happened to be they call it environmental. And it just happened to be environmental. It just happened.
It just was.
It was.
It was. So now that you have been breast free for you've had the joy,
ladies, of not having to wear a bra all summer.
I'm not having to wear a bra. Because you need humor, Toni, and Lord, you have it. And you have a cabin, a cottage that you go to in the summer, and you go swimming in the pool. Now that you've been able to be free for a summer, are you still going to go through reconstructive surgery? Because I'm sure most of us women would love that freedom. Now, no, we would not love that freedom you're going through. You know what I'm saying? But no,
I know what you're saying. Yeah, no, there are days when I think, yes, I'd love to. And there are days when I think, no, this is all good. I do notice that there are people that will look at me that kind of, because I don't have any breasts at all. I don't wear prosthetics. Again, I wasn't going to put a wig on my head. I'm not going to wear, a bra stuffed with Kleenex or chicken cutlets or whatever else they want to stuff it with. I just didn't want any of that. So I really haven't decided. I think because I'm just enjoying, enjoying being cancer-free, enjoying knowing that, there's nothing there. So there is a little bit in the back of my mind, a fear of, when they rebuild my breasts, can it happen again? It's a bit of a fear. Again, who's to say that it can and who's to say it can't, right? Our lives are all planned out. There's a master plan for us, and, it could never happen again. So that's one of the things I'm still wrestling with, but I don't let it get me down.
No, I don't know if I can just say anything is don't stress about it. Your body has just gone through so much trauma. Even if you decide to do it, it's okay that you're giving your body a break right now. I think it's probably pretty healthy that you're giving your body a break right now. And just being, Toni, you're free, you're loving life. So I don't think you should put too much pressure on yourself to make the decision like that. Just let your body heal. It hasn't been that long. So let your body heal a little bit and enjoy that first, I think,
Well, when we went to that reconstructive seminar, they said, about, 6 months from surgery. When I went and saw the doctor, my realistic thing to him, before COVID even started, was a year before surgery. A year after surgery.
Yeah.
I really wanted to have everything healed inside. If they were going to start using parts, I wanted everything that because only one side needed to be radiated. So I wanted all that skin to be the same on both sides. Everything inside, again, because your insides are wet all the time, it takes a little bit longer for things to heal. I wanted all that to be healed. So yeah, I kind of, I do know that eventually down the road, I really do lean to the positive side, probably 80% that yes, I do want to have reconstructive surgery. That other 20%, as I said, is sort of the little bit of the scare of, can cancer come back? But the other 20% is, like I said, just enjoying the moment, not having to worry about, having breasts, not having to worry, does my bra show in my shirt, and, that sort of thing. So, very, again, sort of childish and outlook on, again, I don't have any, tan lines from my bra, so that's on my 20% side.
That's funny.
But yeah. Yeah. I just, I'm letting my body heal and deciding what's best for me. Again, in this decision, I've been talking with my daughter to make sure that she's comfortable as well. Again, she's my primary caregiver. She's the person that looks after me. I'm the person that looks after her. I mean, yes, she is an adult, and yes, she does have a significant other.
You're still one.
It's still, you know what? A bond between a mother and daughter is a bond that never breaks. It doesn't matter, all the good, the bad, and the ugly that they do, they are always ours, right? God gives us a daughter for life.
That's right.
Right? God gives you a son to give to his wife. So, I do have her to think about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So for now, I'm fine just to feel the way I'm feeling. Like I said, carry on, share my message, make sure, get that mammogram. If you have any second thoughts or any doubts, get it checked. Don't be scared to ask. Don't be scared to advocate for yourself. Again, I, through all of this, have said we have the best medical care. We're very lucky. It doesn't take much for them to send you, to have something looked at. You just have to be your own advocate.
Diligent, yeah. And don't be afraid to ask for a second opinion.
Absolutely.
This is your life. Toni, they said, they didn't want to do the other breast, and it turns out that it was precancerous. So this is your life. So if Miss Toni can tell you anything, like she just said, don't be afraid to ask the questions. Don't be afraid to go to the doctors, ask for second opinions, ask for all of you. There's a lot of information out there. We have such amazing healthcare in this country, in this province, and Hamilton does have some of the best facilities in the country. So don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. There's a lot of, when we went to that reconstructive seminar, we were blown away by a lot of the options that women have, and whatever is best for you is best for you. Whatever those options are, it's for you. So don't be afraid. Do those self-examinations. I mean, have fun with it. Get your husband to give you a self-examination. But do it. Just do it. We beg you to do it. Miss Toni, I just want to ask you a couple questions before we wrap up here. You're a survivor twice, the strongest woman I know. Your positivity and your humor, we can all learn from. So prior to all of this and now, you really haven't changed much in the sense that you're still that strong, positive woman. You have permission to be sad and angry. Like, I'm not giving you that permission. You have that permission because you're a powerful woman. It's within you. But you're just so positive. Is there anything that you would do differently through this all?
My only thing that I would do different was stand my ground when I went to that first appointment and he talked me out of removing my breast. But other than that, removing my right breast, sorry. But other than that, I wouldn't. I think I have stayed positive when I've needed to. I have had moments where I've crumbled, and that's okay. I have looked to my friends to help me. That's difficult, but asking for help is okay. And it was so appreciated. I have, an amazing circle, and it's okay to reach out to that circle. Just know that. And the one thing that, the one thing that I would just caution is when you're online and you read things, just be careful what you're reading. Make sure that it actually comes from the Cancer Society or a medical journal, not somebody's blog,
right?
Unless they are an actual doctor. But talk to your doctor. And if you read something and you're not sure, ask. You can call telehealth and they'll help you. You don't have to go see your doctor if you're, I don't have time for this. We all live really busy lives, but, ask.
Before we wrap it up, I have 3 questions. Not 3 questions. I have one question that's got 3 3 things would you tell a person that just received a breast cancer diagnosis?
Reach out, ask, and accept any help. Don't overdo it or feel guilty. And just go with it. Have your good days, have your bad days. Listen to the doctors. If you don't want to hear what they have to say, ask for a second opinion.
Yeah. Thank you. And keep the
Welcome.
Keep the faith. Keep the faith. So thank you, Toni. I mean, I'm really humbled that you would allow us into this privacy of your life. I think it's extremely important. So I hope that those of you who listen and watch this, you share it with women in your circle, because we need to stick together. We need to be strong together. You know, we are super human, us women. We truly are. And the older I get, the more I realize and recognize how strong we actually are. So be there. Be there for someone and allow others to be there for you. That's a tough one that we don't do very well. We like to be there for others, but we don't like to ask them. So Toni saying, reach out, it's extremely important. So thank you, Toni. Thank you for sharing your story. I love you desperately. I will talk to you soon.
I love you too. You take care. And everybody, get your girls checked.
Get your girls checked. And as for me, my listeners, I am so grateful once again that you've tuned in. You tune in every week. Thank you so much. I deeply appreciate you. Don't forget to share, like, please leave some comments, tweet, follow, whatever it is, call someone, send a pigeon. Just make sure you tell everyone they should be listening to This Is Your City. Stay safe and stay blessed. Ciao.
Everybody, get your girls checked.